Hello again. This is St. Peter's in Hove. I'm Father Alexander, and it's time to go on our 146th step in our walking tour through the Bible. And we're going to be looking at Psalm 18 brackets 19, A plus B. Complicated, I know. It all depends how you number the Psalms. This Psalm, Psalm 18 brackets 19, is sometimes treated as two separate Psalms and sometimes treated as one Psalm. Now, I don't know where you stand on the question of natural theology. Natural theology is rather important. Natural theology is basically the idea that you can prove the existence of God from the way the world is. In other words, talking about nature, you can then move on to talk about God. There is, if you like, a natural progression from the contemplation of the universe to the contemplator of the creator of the universe. St. Paul does this in the letter to the Romans. And in this psalm, we also have one of the foundations of natural theology. Natural theology was also done by St. Thomas Aquinas with his 5 ways. Everything that is moved by something else. There cannot be a regression to infinity. Therefore, there must be an unmoved mover of all things, and this is what men call God. Not what is God, but what men call God. The 5 ways of St. Thomas Aquinas are, if you like, natural theology. But of course, one's got to understand that the God that Thomas Aquinas is talking about in natural theology is the God of the philosophers, as opposed to the God revealed by Jesus Christ. One of the things that Luther threw out, along with the books of canon law, was, of course, the idea of natural theology. He asserted that all was revelation, and that man was saved by faith, and faith was a supernatural gift. Well, yes, but our faith rests on a structure of reason. Faith is impossible without some form of reasoning with which we understand the faith. So if you like, we have a scaffold which goes up, which is our reason, and the faith is supported by that scaffold, and vice versa. So natural theology does have its place. And of course, we don't really need to argue about the place of natural theology because we've got this psalm to tell us it. The heavens proclaim the glory of God. The firmament shows forth the work of his hands. Day unto day takes up the story, and night unto night makes known the message. So the heavens and the firmament and the change from day to night tells us about the glory of God, because it is God who made these things. It is God who, if you like, set the ball rolling and set the heavens rolling. No speech, no word, no voice is heard. Obviously, the heavens can't speak to us. Yet their span extends to all the earth, their words the utmost bounds of the world. Yet, even though they're silent, they speak of the glory of God. There he has placed a tent for the sun. It comes forth like a bridegroom coming from his tent, rejoices like a champion to run its course. So the idea is that the sun comes up on one side and goes down on the other, like a champion running his course. At the end of the sky is the rising of the sun. To the furthest end of the sky is its course. There is nothing concealed from its burning heat. So the sun dominates the heavens, and the course of the sun is determined by God. It's a beautiful psalm, this. Particularly this idea of the sun just crossing the sky, being like a champion running his course. It's very nice. Now, it's telling us that if we look at the heavens, we can see something of the glory of the Creator who made such glorious heavens. Well, what about part B of this psalm? Is it in fact the same psalm, or is it a different psalm? Well, it's completely different in its structure and in its rhythms, at least in translation, which would say it's not quite the same thing. But others have said, oh no, this psalm, which is about a totally different subject, is a parallel to the first part. Because just as the sun enlightens the heavens, the light that God has set in the sky gives light to all people, so God has given us something else that also enlightens the world and makes sense of the world. The law of the Lord is perfect, it revives the soul. The rule of the Lord is to be trusted. It gives wisdom to the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, they gladden the heart. The command of the Lord is clear. It gives light to the eyes, not the sun, but the law. The fear of the Lord is holy, abiding forever. The decrees of the Lord are truth, and all of them just. Their word goes forth, you see. They are more to be desired than gold, and the purest of gold, and sweeter are they than honey from the comb. So in them your servant finds instruction. Great reward is in their keeping. But who can detect his errors? From hidden faults acquit me. From presumption restrain your servant, and let it not rule me. Then I shall be blameless, clean from grave sin. May the spoken words of my mouth, spoken words. Please note the first part was no voice, no sound is heard. The spoken words of my mouth, the thoughts of my heart, win favour in your sight, O Lord, my rescuer, my rock. Now, something very important is going on here. I think these are the two parts of the same psalm. The heavens proclaim the glory of God, but no sound goes forth. Who expresses the glory of God? Well, the human being, the only creature on earth that can speak. And therefore, what enables the man to speak, what enables the human being to articulate the way God has arranged the world, the glorious way that God has arranged the world, what helps us to articulate this is the fact that God has given us the law. God has given us this wonderful key to interpreting the universe, the law. Now, I think most Catholics would say at this point with Thomas Aquinas, what God has given us that enables us to interpret the world, enables us, if you like, to be scientists. Don't forget that first part of the psalm is non-scientific, or it's reflecting a very unscientific, we would say, picture of the world, the idea of a firmament. We don't believe there is a firmament, which is sort of like a roof of the heavens. It's clearly a flat earth vision. How are we able to interpret natural phenomena? Well, we interpret it because we have reason, and our reason participates in the divine reason, in other words, natural law. And here, instead of natural law, it is the law that God has given that enables human beings to interpret life itself, the way things are. In other words, just as the sun enlightens the heavens, the Torah enlightens the mind and enables us to see, to understand, and to speak. And I think this is very important. I think this is fundamentally correct, that God's law is that which enables us to make sense of life. Without God's law, life is meaningless, it is incoherent, it is hard to know what part we are to play in the world. But God's law, which is, of course, the love of God poured into our hearts, as St. Thomas Aquinas says, God's law, the new law, enables us to see what the world really is. Now let's go back to the first part of the psalm. The ancient peoples who surrounded the children of Israel believed the universe was a hostile and dangerous place, and that the guiding spirits of the universe had to be placated somehow, usually with blood sacrifices. Now, the people who took that to the furthest degree were, of course, the Aztecs, but the people who worshipped Baal did something pretty horrific as well, namely sacrificing the firstborn in order to placate the gods, in order to keep the gods from destroying them. So I will kill my son in the hope that God will spare the rest of my sons and will spare me. That is a vision of nature read in tooth and claw. It's a vision of nature in which we are poor creatures crawling around on the surface of a very hostile Mother Earth, barely alive, just getting from day to day. But the vision we have in Psalm 18a is of, hang on, sorry about this. Here I am, sorry, I pressed the wrong button there. The vision we have in Psalm 18a is of a beautiful, glorious, and ultimately beneficent universe. The heavens proclaim the glory of God, the firmament shows forth the work of his hands. In other words, the firmament is not full of hostile forces. The firmament is made by the God who loves us. And we are able to interpret the world as a place of love, as mediating God's love to us, because of the love of God poured into our hearts, because of the law that God has given, the law of love. So we have two suns in this wonderful poem, A and B, Psalm 18, the sun in the heavens and the sun, which is the law of God. And these two complement each other. Therefore, there is no clash, there's no incoherence between theology, God's love poured into our hearts, and natural theology. The sun is in its heavens. It's a sign that God loves us. Luther was wrong. All the best. See you again soon. Bye.